Joining in. Glad that you are joining in. So glad that you are part of this special edition. That's right. A special edition of Navigating Grief and Loss. And you're wondering, oh, wow, we're not used to seeing you at this on this day or at this time, but that's okay. It's necessary. We have a very poignant, important conversation. We're going to be talking about the state of America as far as mental health, the state of mental health in America. So I need you to go on and get ready to be a part of this conversation. Like, need you to like as well as to share, because you're probably thinking, wow, this is something I really want someone else to hear in addition to you hearing it. So thank you for joining in. I'm going to be telling you about special guests that is truly called for this conversation because she is a therapist, a mental health therapist, and we want to bring her into the conversation. So you're liking and sharing. I'm thanking you for being a part of the conversation. So glad that you're here. Yeah. And then you're wondering, okay, so who are you? Okay, so I'm glad that you asked. I am Dr. Jacqueline White Maxwell. I'm the founder and president of Jaclovelle Coaching and Consulting Group. I am a grief recovery specialist. I'm a certified substance abuse therapist as well as a transformational coach. Now, what is it that I do? Well, I'm committed to motivate people, men and women, to push through adversities. Yeah. Eradicate all of those misspoken impossibilities. You know, when people say, you can't do that, that's impossible. Or, you need to think about something else because you can't, that's not for you. Yeah. And then I assist people in facing the staggering impact of destiny incompleteness. What is that? Things that you have aspired to, dreamed of, hoped for, and it doesn't happen. I assist persons in pushing through that to achieve those dreams, those hopes, and reclaiming their joy. Yeah. Okay. So if you want to know more, I'll let you know how to learn more about who I am and what I do. But right now, I want you to like and share. Be sure that you are a part of this conversation. We're going to be talking about the state of mental health in America. And who do I have joining me today? Well, I am so honored to have Dr. Tyreese McAllister, and she has over 25 years of experience in the field of emergency mental health, helping individuals experiencing crises and traumatic events. She's a professional counselor and a certified clinical supervisor in Maryland, in the state of Maryland, and in the Commonwealth of Virginia. She's a certified sex offender treatment professional and a certified clinical trauma specialist. We are so excited to have Dr. Tyreese McAllister join us on today. Hello, Dr. Tyreese.
Hello, Dr. Jacqui, and everybody tuning in.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, most definitely. I just want us to get busy because there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. And this is serious. You know, May was termed back in 1949 to be Mental Health Awareness Month. And I did the research because I'm like, well, when did this start? In 1949, somebody recognized we needed to eliminate this stigma. Yeah, to eliminate the stigma with concerning mental illness and raising awareness. In other words, this is how I put it: it's time out for what's done in the house stays in the house. What's said in the house stays in the house. Don't tell nobody about our business. Don't share with anybody what's going on because people are dying. Am I right, Dr. Tyreese?
You're absolutely right. And I'm actually very surprised to find out that this Mental Health Month was commemorated in 1949. That predates me. And I can tell you for much of my life, mental health is not something that people talked about. It is highly stigmatized. And I always say to my clients, you cannot heal what you will not reveal. You have got to share with somebody. I'm not saying post it on social media, but I am saying there are people who can help you. And those people are the people you need to talk to about what's going on with you.
Exactly. Persons like you. And so I said thank you again for being a part of this. If it, and those who are part of the conversation, if you have comments, please go on and pop them in the comments section. If you have questions, pop those in the comment section, because that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
This is about the state of America. There's so much that's going on emotionally and socially. When you talk about Dr. Tyreese, when we talk about mental health, now we freely will talk about physical health, but right now we're gonna focus on from the neck up, because that's where our attention needs to be. Our
Yes.
well-being. How are we connecting with society, with other people? How are we coming back from elements of the of COVID? Times
Right.
when we had to isolate. How are we making better decisions? Equipping ourselves to make good, sound, mature decisions.
One of the things that I can say, and I've been quite happy to see that during the last 2 years of COVID, many people who probably would not have otherwise come to counseling have come to counseling. And quite frankly, it's been really good to see a lot of men. Most
Mhm.
of my caseload are men.
Mm,
And they are really dealing with their mental health, because women might have dealt with it, but men definitely didn't. And it's men of all ages. It's not just young men,
mhm,
but older men as well are coming to counseling. And it is really exciting to see that men are dealing with their mental health. And one thing I want to share with people, I think a lot of times people feel that you have to be ill, you have to be sick, like, or you
mhm,
have to have a diagnosis like schizophrenia or bipolar or major depressive disorder. But there are a lot of things people can get counseling for so that they don't get ill. Like, you don't go to the gym to not to everybody. Some people do go to the gym because they've had a health crisis and now want to reverse that, and that's honorable. But some people go to the gym for prevention, and
yes.
therapy really could be prevention. Like, let me run this by somebody, let me work this out, let me talk about this, let me get some insight and develop a different set of coping skills to keep myself well. And that really is what I'm encouraging people to do. Even therapists have to have therapists. I'm taking on people's problems 8, sometimes 12, 16 hours a day. And certainly I need to talk about some stuff that I'm dealing with too, right? Not
Mhm,
just taking on other people's problems, but I have an adult daughter. I have a husband, you know what I'm saying? I have work stress. So, life can be really hard to deal with, and having somebody to talk to on a regular basis is definitely a good idea.
mhm. Very much so. So let's talk a little bit when we say this state of mental health in America. You know, let's kind of unpack that a little bit. It's broad, but let's unpack
It
it a little bit.
is. It
Mhm,
is. And there's a lot that could go into it. But like right off the top, what comes to mind is we are really, hopefully, we are
mhm,
coming out of a pandemic. And the truth of the matter is, maybe, maybe not, right? We're certainly more freer than we have been over the last 2 years. And but there's still a looming thing where people are saying another wave is coming, right? And so then there's that anxiety, right? So it's very interesting to see. I just traveled back from New Jersey today on a train with mask on, okay? But I'm looking at the number of people who are not masked on the train, a crowded train, like it's packed, it's no empty seats,
mhm,
and people are not wearing masks. And so, and I get it, right? Because I have some mask exhaustion myself. I am over the mask, but I don't know what's coming. And so, in a crowded element, I want to have that extra layer of protection. So we have COVID. First of all, we have first and foremost COVID. Then just yesterday, 10 people were
yes,
killed. So
yes,
we have mental health as it relates to violence. This apparently was a an attack on African Americans. So we have not only microaggressions that we deal with all the time, but we now have other stuff. People are attacking us. And I had dinner with my husband upon my return today. And I said, we're constantly talking to our daughter about how she takes care of herself and being careful in the street. But truth be told, we can't go to church, go grocery shopping, or anything without actually being at risk. And so it's not just her, but it's us as well, like really have to be safe. And what level of anxiety that brings us as potential victims, then I have to be concerned about, are other people getting their mental health taken care of? Like people who are very ill, which I'm just assuming that the predator who killed those 10 people, it was a very, very ill person. Then I have to be worried about that person.
Mhm.
Then we also looking at the suicide rate. Like
Yeah.
suicide is not new, but when we look at the suicide in our community, first of all, we started the year off with Miss America.
Mhm.
Her name is Chelsea Chris,
Chelsea Chris.
killing
Yeah.
herself. And
Mhm.
then, and also right before her, Ian
Yeah.
Alexander, son of Regina King, killed himself. And just this week, I was
Mhm.
reading about an 18-year-old. Her name is Arlana Miller. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. 18 years old, college student, took her own life.
Mhm.
So we're in trouble, Dr. Jacqui. We are in
Yeah.
trouble. And that's just
Yeah.
off the top. That's just this week what we talking about. When we
Mhm.
talk about the state of America and mental health.
Mhm.
There's a lot to unpack here and a lot to be overwhelmed about, a
Mhm.
lot to be concerned about. I mean,
It is.
we got our fill.
Right. And I really believe in, and there's someone else I wanted to mention, because one of the things I've seen over the past couple of years is our celebrities, our persons, that we recognize and see on TV, in the movies, on the stage. They have really been pushing, Olympics athletes have been really pushing, and being sincere and real with us, in order to help destigmatize this. And I think we also need to recognize and mention Winona Judd. I
Right,
know that she has talked over the years about her challenges as far as her mental health,
right.
and yeah, I
And
think that's
Dr. Jacqui, Winona Judge, her family just announced this week that she had taken her own life. Initially, they were very transparent in saying that mental health is what killed her, or mental illness is
mental
what
illness.
killed her. And they were very transparent in saying that she killed herself with a gun. And so, not on this show, but maybe on another show, we could talk about the access to guns by people in general, people with mental health issues, people with poor anger management issues. But the
Mhm.
access to guns is also America's shame.
Yeah,
It is an American shame that people have the level of access that they have and can do so much damage. And you're not just damaging you damaging communities and even generations,
generations.
right?
Yes,
And so, not today. This is mental
right.
health in America today, but
That's right.
definitely I would like to come back, circle back, and be able to talk about it, because it does relate to mental health and wellness,
Mm-hmm.
how we protect ourselves, and those types of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't see any comments yet, but one of the things that I know we have been asked in the past is, okay, so how do I take care of myself as far as being mentally healthy? I mean, a lot of times, when you go to the doctor said, well, what you need to do is, or even now when you go to the pharmacist, and someone shared with me the other day that when years ago in the 40s, when you went to the pharmacist, you called the pharmacist doctor and you ask them questions about how to take the medication. Now, we hear pharmacists say, do you have any questions? I think it's important for us to talk about, how do we take care of our mental health? Yes, we have questions. We can no longer be silent. We can no longer say, keep it in the house. So let's talk a little bit about, how do we help ourselves and each other, our family members.
Well, one, we have to reduce the stigma for ourselves. We have to know it's okay not to be okay, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
there's some things that are happening in the world, in our homes, in our communities. That hurts us. That's not okay. That negatively impacts us.
Mhm.
And we have this facade, especially among African American women, that we have to be strong. I have clients that all the time say to me, I'm just trying to be strong. And crying don't mean you're not strong. So you could cry and
Right.
still be strong. Like I cry all the time and I am one of the strongest people I know.
Mhm.
So crying doesn't indicate that I am not strong. First of all, but the other thing, I think we have to be very intentional with our
Mhm.
mental health. Like we intentionally take care of our dental, right? Like every morning you get up and you brush your teeth, you floss, you brush your teeth between meals, you brush them before you go to bed, you visit the dentist 6 months. Like everybody has some type of dental practice that they could share. But you know how many, every time I start with a new client, I ask them to tell me what their mental health practice is right now. Like before they came to me, what do you do to take care of yourself? And they're like, I don't know. What? I'm supposed to do something? Yes, you are supposed to be doing something. You take care of your physical health because you eat every day, right? You drink
Right.
water. Sometimes you exercise, but you do something to sustain that body.
Mhm.
And we do stuff to sustain our teeth. But what we don't do is try to sustain our mental health. And if we ever needed anything, right
Mhm.
now is the time that we really have got to put on the whole armor, right?
Mhm.
One, to protect our minds, right? So part of it
Right.
is protecting it against things that might, you know, hurt it.
Mhm.
And then we have to do things that make our mind strong so that when things are happening, we are able to, be able to come back from it, right?
Right.
And then we have to also like train or teach our children coping skills, like being able to respond to things that are going to happen, because that's the one thing that we can't promise you, that nothing is going to happen.
Mhm.
I
That is
said in
true.
my TED talk, you either going through something, you've been through something, or you about to go through something. One
Mhm.
of these three stations, we all in at any
Right.
given point. And so it is really important for us to know that, and knowing that if I just came out of something, I can look back and be like, I'm strong, right? Like I
Mhm.
did that. And if I'm getting ready to go through something, I could say I'm ready for the battle, right? Like I got what I need. Or if I'm going through something, I can say I got this,
Mhm.
right? And not trying to be strong for others. And trying to be strong is okay, but it don't mean you can't cry. It don't mean you can't see a therapist.
Exactly.
It don't mean you can't deal with it, right? Like you
That
have
is.
to be able to deal with it.
It's interesting that you say that because when I talk about the miseducation of the griever, persons who have losses, I said, so be strong. Um, don't cry. All of those things are statements that someone taught us or said because they didn't know what else to say. So
Hmm.
when we even speak, be strong, there is really no process of what that even looks like. And like
Hmm.
you say, so we just say, okay, that means I can't cry. So it's important for us to take a look at the messages that we've been told to, concerning our mental health. You
And we
know,
are and we are told those messages. I remember watching, I was probably 10. I might even been younger than 10, but I remember watching a show on TV, a
hmm
movie, and this woman was having a nervous breakdown. And I remember asking my mother, what's going on with her? And my mother said, oh, it's a nervous breakdown. And I asked her, did she ever have one? And she said, no, I can't have one. And I said, what do you mean you can't have one? She said, because if I had one, who would take care of you? Well, that was my first message
hmm
about you can't break down if you have kids. Right. And it
hmm
don't mean you can't really, I get what she says, because she was a single parent. And I really get what she was saying. But the truth of the matter is, that's not necessarily good, right? Like sometimes you have to put stuff in place so that you can have a minute, right? It
Exactly.
might not be a total breakdown, but hey, I need a break.
Right.
Right?
That's
Like who's telling you you can't have a break? Like there's a respite, right? Like people need to have some time away. to have some time to themselves to kind of regroup. But that
Mhm.
was one of my earlier messages about mental health as a Black woman and as a mother. There's
Mhm.
no opportunity to have a breakdown. And I,
Mhm.
I kind of agree. I get it. But I think we got to put things in place so that a breakdown is not what we have to have. Right?
Exactly.
Like we
So
have
if
to,
you're doing preventative work,
right.
why do you have to have a breakdown? Why can't it be a breakthrough and I'm ready to, I'm ready
Baby.
to cope with and deal with some things because I hit a breakthrough, I broke through it, and I'm going to another place.
Dr. Jacqui, we got to make that into a sermon, like not the breakdown, but the breakthrough. I love that. I absolutely
Uh,
love that. And that's really, and a lot of us, I'm glad you said that too, right? Because it makes me think of like our churches, right?
mm,
Our churches, a lot of people have been taught that if you have Jesus, you don't have a therapist, you don't take medicine, Jesus will fix it. And it really is okay to have Jesus and a therapist.
yes,
And
it
that
is.
a breakthrough is a breakthrough. You can still have a breakthrough and take medication because some
Yeah,
things you just need medication for. Let's just be honest. Some
that's right.
things you're not going to be able to pray your way out of. And Jesus made me as a therapist, and Jesus is okay with the medicine. So
Hmm.
sometimes we have to, we have to be able to do that.
Yes, yes, and we'll be talking about first responders next week, so that I think maybe some clergy might be joining us. How about that? Yes.
That'd be awesome. I see
Uh-huh.
Rosalind Jeter said not a breakdown, but a breakthrough, and she loves it. And I am with her
Yes,
on that.
thank you so much, Rosalind, for joining us. She's a tremendous member of the community up in New York, and does some great work with young people. That's a good segue. So, if what you're saying is, if we don't do the preventative work that we need to, as far as taking care of our mental health, because I know you said a few minutes ago about generations, how this impacts generations. Say a little more about that.
So I mean, we get these messages. Sometimes they're direct messages like, "Oh, we can't have no mental health in here. Or we not doing that," or "Jesus will fix it," right? And then sometimes it's intentional. Like this is what I'm telling you about mental health. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's kind of subliminal. Like my mother, we weren't talking about her mental health, but it was very clear that if you're a mother, if you're a
Right.
Black mother, there's
Right.
no time for that, right? And
Superwoman.
so we do have to do it, and we have to deal with it. And sometimes too, when mental illness is in our family, years ago, it was the uncle in the back room that nobody really
Yes.
talked about. No, we made sure he ate and he didn't get out and disturb the
Mhm.
community.
Yes.
And those are the things that we knew about mental health. But now with medication, people can be perfectly healthy. But I can tell you that I've talked to many people who need medication and will not take medication because the stigma of mental illness. And so we even have to watch how we talk about it amongst ourselves and in our families.
Hmm.
Because one, you don't know who's dealing with mental illness. I've been doing this work for a number of years, and a friend of mine revealed to me that her mother had schizophrenia. And I had been her friend for years. We had never even talked about it, but it's a reality, right? Like that,
Hmm.
those things are, those illnesses are in our family. Now we'll talk about somebody, Big Mama having diabetes or having the sugar. Remember that Big Mama
Hmm.
got the sugar,
Get the
right?
sugar.
Or something like that. But we don't talk about mental health, and it is a medical issue, right? It is a medical condition that we should not be ashamed of, and there's treatment for it, right? So it can be treated. It might not be eliminated, but it certainly can be treated and it can be managed. And we
Hmm.
don't talk about it. And this is the thing when we talk about generations, this younger generation is also filled with depression and anxiety, and they're treating it by smoking weed.
Hmm.
Let's just call a thing a thing. That's what they're doing.
That's right.
And when you have to smoke, when you get up and you smoking throughout the day, that's how you take medication every 3 to 4 hours, right?
That's
That's how you
right.
take medication. And
Yes.
I've even had a client say, "Miss McAllister, if I don't smoke this, I'm a blackout on somebody." I was like, okay, so let's work on some anger management skills, and let's work on some anxiety or how to cope with
Hmm.
that stress.
That's
right? So
right.
you don't have to do that, but
That's
they prefer to do that rather than getting some coping skills or taking an anti-anxiety
mhm.
medication.
Well, Dr. Tyreese, it's interesting you say that. So when I work with people about grieving, we talk about short-term energy relieving behaviors. That's it right there. So for a moment, for a brief moment, I'm going to use something outside of my body, whether it's a drug, alcohol, shopping, anything that I think is going to be soothing and will medicate me so I don't feel.
Hmm. And that really is what people do. Same thing with alcohol and other drugs.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is, and one of the premises of NAAA and programs like that, dealing with life on life terms, and people struggle with that. People,
Yes.
I mean, and I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying
Right.
you got to
That's
do it
right.
though, and
Yes.
it is doable to be able to deal with the reality of our situation. Some of the stuff we're gonna deal with in this life is harsh, like losing people. Like,
Yeah.
everybody who's born is going to die. That is a hard pill to swallow.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That is a hard pill to swallow, but it is a necessary
It's
pill
real.
because you're not going to live but so long and not experience a loss. And we're going to lose other things. We're going to lose jobs. We're going to lose friends. We're going to, with the gun violence, I mean, we're losing, people relocate. Like, we've got to be able to do better with being able to accept life on life terms.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Wow. We are joined by Dr. Tyreese McAllister. We're talking about the state of mental health in America. And as many of you are already aware, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It started back in 1949. Wow. That surprised me as well. But we are so glad to have Dr. McAllister with us. She's a professional counselor, as well as she is a certified clinical trauma specialist. So those of you that are joining in, I'm so glad that you're here. Hello, Sheila Booker. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Sheila does some great work with young people and is very much committed to seeing change happen in the lives of others. Um, you mentioned about handling stress, being able to handle stress, handle conflict, just daily life. You said, okay, we take care of our daily life skills, such as brushing our teeth, combing our hair, whatever the case may be. But a part of being mentally healthy is having those means, those ways of how we handle daily stress and conflict, our daily life throughout the day. What are we doing as far as decision making? How are we making healthy decisions? Let I want to throw another one in. What about connecting? Who connecting with others? How would you say important that is as far as being mentally healthy?
Well, connection is really important. And even people who didn't necessarily think connections were important or took them for granted really got to see that when we were isolated as a result of COVID, that involuntary isolation, how important connections were. And
Mhm.
all of the things, all of the actually wonderful things that we did to maintain those connections, like Zoom, I'm sure their stock increased during that time, and all of the other platforms that we had or that emerged so that we could stay connected, because that connection is important to other people. So whether it's family or friends, and even when you look at people who don't have connections and then join gangs, right? Like, the connection is really, really important. Even when it's a bad connection, it's still an important connection. But the one connection, as it relates to me, that is super important is our connection to a higher power. For me, it's God, and for me, it's Christ,
Yeah.
right? But when
Right.
people don't have that connection to a higher power, oftentimes they deal with stuff differently too. And so, and we talk about being able to be resilient and to and to bounce back from traumatic things that happen. Many people will, give credence to Christ, and being in that connection over all other connections, because
Mhm.
it's good to have a connection with family and friends. But for me, nothing beats that connection
Right.
with Christ. And so I encourage people. I love when my clients already have a connection and already talk about it, because then I feel like we can really have some breakthroughs
Mm-hmm.
um as it relates to Christ, and a realistic picture, right? Like, not just because you are a Christian, or because you have a relationship with Christ, that you don't need medication or a therapist, right? But there's some other avenues to be able to get to. So I think connections are good. I think the connections have to be healthy too, because
Yes.
sometimes we have an unhealthy connection to Christ,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Like sometimes it can be a little unhealthy. Like that's all you gonna deal with and not anything else. And I mean, I think that's not necessarily reality based, or we have unhealthy connections and toxic relationships, and we don't know how to get out of them, or we don't know how to manage them. So,
Yes.
and anybody can have that. Like, you can't really, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family members. And you also can't always pick your coworkers. And so sometimes those relationships can be very toxic.
Yes.
And so you have to learn how to manage yourself around toxic people. I remember, and I use this example because my daughter, when they were young, when my daughters were younger, they would be fussing. They were 13 months apart. She's in my seat. She's sitting next to me. And I'm like, well, it's a sofa over here and a chair over here. Couldn't you just move yourself right away from her instead of, and then I was here first. Yes, you were, but you don't want her aggravating you. So you could just move to another seat instead of sitting there, because you could stay there because you were there first and be aggravated, or you cannot be aggravated and move yourself. And mental
Mm-hmm.
health is really like that. Like, I could stay here because
Mm-hmm.
I was here first, or I
That's
could
right.
stay in this position because I'm right,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Or
right.
I
There
could
you
just say,
go.
you know what? I don't want to be aggravated. I'm gonna just move myself to a
Mm-hmm.
whole nother space. And that could be physically as well as mentally. I'm gonna mentally move myself away from you so
Right.
that I'm not aggravated. And that's the thing, I find people have a very hard time dealing with, being able to just do something different and manage themselves. They want to make somebody else do something. They
Yeah.
want to make them move, or make them go, or make them do whatever, right? Instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to just move myself so that
Mm-hmm.
I can maintain my peace.
Right. It's almost territorial,
It is.
My family brought this, purchased this pew at church in 1927, and I'm gonna stay here. You might go, but I'm gonna stay. That kind of thing. So yeah, I get what you're saying. It can be very unhealthy, and I think
It's
that's very
principles. It's
important.
it's principles over peace. Well,
Yeah,
baby, give me peace any day. You can keep your
peace.
principles.
That's
I
right.
just need peace in my life, because principles
Yes.
don't necessarily give me peace. I get it, because I sometimes principles are okay, but give me peace over principles any day of the week.
Mhm. Amen. That's right. Amen. All right. Well, I see another comment here. I just wanted to say hello. Okay. What is the best? Okay. Let's see. What is Sheila Booker saying? So, when is the best age to diagnose children with a mental illness?
So that's a very good question, Sheila, and
Mhm.
thank you so much for asking it.
Yes.
I don't get caught up on a diagnosis, right? Because the diagnosis is a collection of symptoms that fit neatly into a category so that people in my profession can bill. Right. So my husband say, you always try to diagnose somebody, right? And I get it. But I can't unsee what I see, and I can't unlearn what I learned. But when we start looking at the symptoms of a person, and if the symptoms become so unpleasant that it
Hmm.
starts to impact school, work, and home life, then we need to do something about it and start treating symptoms. So reducing the symptoms by giving different sets of skills and ways of behaving and existing versus a diagnosis. I think
Right.
diagnosis is important as it relates to billing, or for us to have an understanding, or if we're going to medicate, right?
Mm.
But basically, what I would be looking for is, what are the symptoms and how do we start working with those symptoms? So let's say, for example, a child does not sit still in school. Let's look at everything. Let's not look at just this child in school. Let's look at what's happening in the home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Did this child
Yes.
have breakfast? Did this
There
child
you
eat
go.
dinner the night
Yeah.
before? Is this child being molested at night? Is this child on a phone and tablet all night because they ain't supervised adequately, or parents haven't taken it away, or different things. And so we're quick to throw a diagnosis on a person, not just children, but on people, but not looking at what are some of the things that are happening that makes this symptom so unpleasant, either for the teacher or for the student. If the
That's
student
good.
is still able to, I mean, like, even if you just think about students in class, 30 students in class, like, who can pay attention? So that's why we have so many Black boys diagnosed with ADHD. But the reality is, it's too much stimulation in the class, even for an adult. 30
Mhm.
kids doing their own thing. I mean, that's
Yes.
got to be a lot,
Right.
and so I don't want to just look at the schools, which I think that we've not done a great job at. We looked at the behavior in the classroom, and while it could be definitely unsettling for the teacher, there's
Hmm.
some other things, which is why teachers need some support,
Yes. Very much.
having people do home studies and really what else is going on in their home,
Hmm.
because kids have I because I've done emergency mental health, so I'm the one has been going in the home. But usually by the time that's happening, the kid is probably already on medication, but the homes are in disarray. And so that's why the kid is acting out, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of stuff that's not going on that should
Hmm.
be going on for that child.
Hmm. I know when I was working juvenile justice, I mean, obviously by the time that that young person got to me, we had to do assessments to find out everything you just said. These are the symptoms, and what else is going on. And I think that's critical. So thank you for sharing that. Wow.
Mhm.
This has been such great conversation and discussion and information, Dr. Tyreese. I really appreciate this. And so, as if people want to reach you, or reach out to you, I want to put your website up: clinicalforensicassociates.com. That's
Mhm.
how they can
Yes,
reach out to you, correct?
yes.
Okay, good, good, good. Now, we cannot end this conversation without talking about how God brought you and I together. Now,
Okay.
yes, 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 yes. And I am just excited because it was Dr. Tyreese that sat next to me at a conference. She shared her a little bit about who she was, and I was like, oh, I need to meet her, and I really need to talk to her. And lo and behold, a few months after our conversation, brief conversation at the conference, within really 30 days, she reached out to me and she shared her story. You want to pick it up from there, Dr. Tyree?
Sure, sure. In 2017, I lost my um, youngest daughter, 18-year-old Ayana Jasmine, to gun violence. And God had, because, and I like to say this in this position, but because I was healthy when my daughter got killed, I dealt with it pretty healthily, right? Because not that it wasn't rough, and not that I wasn't strong, but I was resilient. And
Yeah.
so I actually was got back to working on my business. I think we met in 2019, Dr. Jacqui, just before COVID. And no, it actually was
It
20,
was
because it was
20.
during
Yes.
COVID. You're right, right. So
Uh-huh.
during COVID, we went to a conference. So it was well into COVID, actually.
Yeah, it was
And
November.
when I saw that Dr. Jacqui did grief and loss, by this time I had written a children's book on helping children deal with gun violence, because when my daughter first died, I looked for a book to help other children be in my family. And when I could not find a book, I decided, I should say, God inspired me to write a book. And that book did very well, but people were asking for more. So the name of the book is My Lollipop in Heaven. Thank you, Dr. Jacqui. Is
Mhm.
My Lollipop in Heaven, and it is a amazing book that not only deals with community gun violence, but police gun violence, suicide, and not returning home from a deployment and an accidental shooting. It is very well done. And I'm not just saying it because I wrote the book, but it is a great book and a great resource for children. And with all of the homicides in the community, I wanted to make sure children did have something so that people can help children process some of this loss. And I know that that was necessary as a trauma clinician.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was after that book was done, people were saying they still had questions. They still needed to know how to talk to the child themselves. And so I had this great idea when I met Dr. Jacqui, found out she was a certified grief coach. And I said, we need to collaborate because there's some stuff I know as a trauma clinician that I really don't know as a person who does grief work. And so you have in one book, you want to show in the book, Dr. Jacqui, we collaborated on this book, Too Hard to Bite, but Not Too Hard to Lick. And Dr. Jacqui came up with that title. We work hard together to get this book out. And it is a caregiver guide for any adult who is already working with children. It is easy to read. It is actionable. It is practicable, actionable, and tactical skills in helping people help children through the complicated subject of when somebody has taken somebody you love. So that could be in the community, that could be a parent. Oh, we also deal with domestic violence in the children's book. And so this book breaks each of those types of homicides down with some helpful hints on how you can deal with those. And so it was amazing working with you, Dr. Jacqui, just absolutely amazing. And so we have this book out and we want to definitely be a resource
Yes.
for others who need this book. So even if you're watching now and you know somebody who might need this book,
Mhm.
definitely tag them in this so that they can
Yes.
reach out to either myself or Dr. Jacqui to get the books, or even if you know a school that is dealing with this type of
Yes.
stuff
That's
in
good.
that community, Dr. Jacqui and I are able to come out and really give some technical support on how to help children through this because these types of losses last a lifetime. I can tell you as a therapist, for over 30 years that I have people that come see me that something happened to them 30, 40 years ago and it
Mhm.
still haunts them and they're just starting to work through it. So we want to give children an opportunity to work through it while they're 6, 7, 12, 20, right? We want to be able to give them the support to be able to do that now so that it won't be so complicated when they're 21 and 31.
Excellent, excellent. And
Thank
I am
you, Dr.
so,
Jacqui.
oh, thank you. What an honor it is to be a part of working with you, but also a part of even your healing and your resiliency.
Thank
I
you.
see that truly as an honor. And
Thank
I
you.
want to say, even with the caregivers guide, we found it, we were writing and looking at, okay, we want to talk about these various types of loss, but then we said, wait a minute, as you said earlier, we can't leave God out of this. So there are scriptures, and scriptures for the adult, the caregiver, as well as there's scriptures included for the child. We used ensured that we used a version of the Bible that was specific for the child. But we added that. But bottom line is, it's easy to read. It's for anyone, whether they are biblically based or not. It is definitely a caregiver's guide, and I'm excited about that collaboration that we've had, as far as the book, the children's book, as well as the caregiver's guide. Educators, um, juvenile justice workers, um,
Teachers,
teachers,
ministers,
ministers, youth pastors. I mean, I can go
aunties.
on. That's right, grandmommies. Regardless, anyone who has the heart and loves children.
Mhm.
This is necessary. So, and then last but not least, we got to mention this. We we were so fortunate to be a part of a collaboration with our coach. Earlier you said therapists need therapists, coaches need coaches.
Right.
And so our coach Charvette Mitchell, it compiled this, and Dr. Tyreese has a chapter in Pursue, and this is a life and leadership book, and I also have a chapter. So this is something to add to your collection. If you lead anyone, or even if you don't see yourself as a leader, and I bet you are a leader, but if you don't see yourself as a leader and you feel like, okay, this is something I might need to just learn more about, it's great life application. So thank you so much, Lynn Lewis. Lynn Lewis has joined us. She does some tremendous work and is a, a tremendous author. She truly is a great author. We thank you so much, Sheila. Sheila Booker said, thank you for sharing your story. I will take a copy of both, but thank you, Sheila.
Thank
You're
you.
such a great support and encourager. And we're so glad that Rosalind Jeter has joined us from the state of New York. And she said, divine connection. Yeah, that's what
It
happens
is. It
here. Divine
definitely
connection.
is.
Yes. So this has been, and everyone who has joined us, I will be reaching out. If you put a comment in the comment section, I will definitely reach out to you. Or if you are watching this during the replay, please place hashtag replay in the comment section. And I'll get back to you. Dr. Tyreese will get back with you. And now, you want to
And
say something else?
I wanted to say, if you have a question, because one of the things last year, well,
Hmm.
actually 2 years ago now, I think when COVID first hit, I
Hmm.
did a couple of lives on mental health and was surprised at the number of people who came into my inbox and had so many questions. And we
Yeah,
want to be able to answer questions in a way where people don't have to feel embarrassed. People don't have to
right.
feel like,
That's right.
oh, I don't want anybody to know I have this going on. People ask the questions about symptoms and all kind of stuff, and so we're here for it. We want to
Yes.
educate people. We are doing our work to reduce and end stigma on mental illness, and we are trying to encourage and influence everybody to prioritize their mental health, to take their mental health seriously, and to do something on a daily basis that takes care of their mental health. So please ask questions, even if hashtag replay and then ask your question. We would appreciate that, and we look forward to engaging with you further.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I have, and that's my website there at the bottom, scrolling at the bottom. If you want more information, if you want resources, or if you want a consultation, individually, we will be happy to give you a complimentary consultation to discuss this and unpack this further. So, we said that we are committed to making this happen. So next week, what do we have in store, Dr. Tyreese, for next week?
Next week, we're going to be talking about the mental health of first responders. Now, most people think of first responders as police, fire, and EMS, which actually is my specialty. I'm working specifically with law enforcement and their mental health, but it is also people who've just been on the front lines these last 2 years.
Mhm.
Our first responders have taken a beating. Our essential workers, people who did not get to work from home, people who still had to struggle and educate their kids or homeschool their kids for the last 2 years, but still had to get up and go to work and place
Mhm.
themselves in sometimes dangerous positions. We really want to talk about that, like police, fire, EMS. They did not have a chance to work from home. And oftentimes they had to work double shifts and much overtime, many days, many times not having days off, and vacations denied because the world was in such a crisis. Same thing with our nurses and our doctors. Same thing with emergency medical staff and hospitals,
Mhm.
and even our jail and prison personnel.
Yes.
Again, first line workers could not take time off, still had to get up and go to work, and often stay longer than their anticipated shift. And so we want to talk about them. And so if you know of anybody who fits that in that category, please tag them next week or let them know that we're going to talk about the
Mhm.
state of in the state of mental health in America, that we're going to be talking about our first responders. It is definitely a population that I prioritize as it relates to my work. And I think Dr. Jacqui also realizes the losses that they have faced. They have faced multiple losses, not necessarily with family members, but just multiple loss after loss after loss. and had to shoulder that oftentimes and continue to work. There was no 3 days off after
Mm-hmm.
losing several patients, right? There were no
Right.
and no
That's right.
time off. And
Mm-hmm.
as a result, many people unfortunately have killed themselves. We look at the insurrection that happened in January 6th of last year and how many police officers have killed themselves as a result, and have gotten hurt. And uh, these are our heroes. These are our American heroes, and we have got to really position ourselves to do better to take care of their mental health, to help them and normalize them taking care of their own mental health as well.
Yes. So good. Okay. So
Dr.
that's
Jacqui, I'm sorry. I wanted to just talk briefly about my other book. Is that okay?
oh yeah, yeah, yes. Please, please do.
Okay. So
Yes.
speaking of, okay, mental health, mind over matter. Can y'all see my book? Mind
Yes.
over matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it is mental health stories on coping with stigma, society, and self. Because sometimes it's not just the stigma in society that prevent us from getting help, it's ourselves. So here you have it. Mind Over Matter. And it is a book of 14 people who have shared, it's an anthology of 14 people who have shared their own mental health journey, and have overcome, right? They have overcome. And that's the message that I really want people to understand. If you have anxiety, panic attacks, schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, bipolar, that people are overcoming. They're not necessarily eliminating the disorder, but they are definitely dealing with their diagnosis and reducing the symptoms, right? And so that they can live normal lives. So this book kind of helps you see that people can do it. And I want to encourage people, because oftentimes people, and that's why the stigma is so real. People feel like if they have this diagnosis, if people put these letters on them, or put them in this category, that there's no hope for them. And there are people who are living perfectly normal lives that are medicated, and have learned some coping skills and some
Right.
strategies, and
Yeah.
they're doing just as well as us. Sometimes they're doing better because they have some strategies that they
Right.
can use to work out some of this stuff. So
That's
it is a great book. It is a very easy read. It's only 14 small chapters of people sharing their stories. And I don't know about you, but I love a come up story. Like, I am here for an overcomer every day. I
mm-hmm.
love it, right? Like, those are my heroes, that everyday person that, woke up and saw this a huge obstacle and has been able to overcome. So for me, an overcomer story is just is for me. And so this book is about 14 people who've overcome odds of a diagnosis, right? Being categorized, and they've dealt with society stigma and themselves and have overcame. So if you're interested in that book, please definitely reach out to me on my website and let me know if you would like to get that book. But I'm here for Overcomer Story. And if you have one, share with Dr. Jacqui and us, because
Yes.
we love to hear it. I mean, I often talk about, now I don't give any names, but when my clients have treatment gains and successes, I say, you know what, I'm gonna have to share this. I don't say a name, so I'm not putting a business in the street, but I love when people can overcome, because so often we think that we can't, and we can. We are natural born overcomers. Like, we can do it. We're resilient. And one more thing, Dr. Jacqui, I always talk about resilience. Radical resilience is really my brand. And it's not just being able to bounce back. Resilience means to bounce back, but radical resilience means to bounce back better than I was before whatever was there
Mm-hmm.
came. Right. So not only am I going to take what happened to me, but I'm going to be better than what I was before. And I've been able to do that for myself with my daughter's death, because before my daughter was killed, I didn't have any books. And now I have 5, right? And my 5 books are about helping other people. My business has flourished because I know where my focus is. I know how to
Yeah.
niche down in my business. And it was because of the tragedy that I faced. And so sometimes we do face some hard times. We can't bypass those, but can we bounce back better? We can. And it is a mindset. And so people like Dr. Jacqui, who is a grief coach, is the person that really does that. Like when she introduced her business, she talked about there's some possibilities that you had that weren't realized, that you probably let go, and don't want to realize now, but it's still there, and let's bring those out.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, and your husband also co-authored that book. Am I
Yes,
correct?
he did. And since you
Yes.
brought it up, I wasn't going to do all of it, but also we have this book called
Yeah.
Fathers Matter:
Fathers matter.
Changing the narrative of Black fathers. And he and I co-authored that book as well. And so this book is 18 stories of Black fathers who have um, overcome odds and continue to be parents. Often, Black men do not get the credit that they're due. We hear my baby daddy ain't doing this, not doing that, and there are fathers out here who are doing
Yes, they are. Yes.
tremendous jobs, and we
Yes.
don't have that. And so my husband and I decided to compile several stories of several authors to share with the world that Black men do take care of their children, and they take care of other people's children, and there are some Black fathers out here doing good. And so we wanted to create this book to encourage young fathers who might be having, drama with the child's mother, or raising a child alone because something happened to the
Mhm.
mother, or there's just some other issues that occur. But and I think every story is um in here. There's a person who went to prison when his children were 2 and 3, and
Mhm.
because both children had great mothers, and allowed him to still be involved, he was able to still parent and have a relationship with his, not only his children, but his grandchildren, while
Mhm.
still in prison. And
Yeah.
so, even though that was good for him to do it, I still give credit to the mothers who did not turn on him, and it still allowed him to have take up that space in the children's lives. And then
Yes.
there's one other
So good.
story of a father who has a child that's a transgender. And as hard as that could be for Black men to deal with, how he dealt with it beautifully, so that his child would not, one, take their own life or have some other struggles on top of the struggle of being transgender. I think it's an amazing story. And so there are different types of stories in here, but
Mhm.
amazing stories.
Wonderful. You, the McAllisters have done some fabulous, some great work, and
God is
thank you.
able.
Yes, and then thank you for reminding us the power in writing. Putting it on paper or putting it into words, and I think that's so good. Okay, so and June is Men's Health Awareness Month, and so we're gonna be talking a little bit about men, and maybe even bringing some of the men on board to be a part of the conversation. So,
I
but
love
thank you
it.
so much. Yeah, I
Thank
do
you.
too. But thank you, Dr. Tyreese. Thank you, everyone who has joined in, and we're looking forward to seeing you. Um, on Tuesday, I have my regular navigating grief and loss. I have a special guest. Go on social media. It'll share exactly who that is and what we'll be discussing. But next Sunday at 7 o'clock is our time, our next special edition of Navigating Grief and Loss, in which we will continue to talk about the state of America as far as mental health. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day and stay healthy.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.